This is a video on the green machinery for dealing with creativity, for getting creativity, for measuring creativity, for improving creativity, and all that stuff. Now, I can't describe the whole machine. It's unbelievably vast. But I'm going to give you 6 maybe components here in this brief video. Each individual component is vaster than anything Harvard has done in its entire history on the subject. That is not an exaggeration. I'm saying that after reading 2,000 books on creativity and interviewing 8,000 of the world's most creative people. This is not an exaggeration. They are my competition, and I want to leave them in my dust. Historically, I want to be the person 100 years from now on the net, and you get Harvard what they did, and you get me what I did in my brief life, and they are my dust. Now, I may not do that. I may not succeed, but I think I've already succeeded. And this will be a taste. You can decide on your own. 60 models of creativity from 150 of the world's most creative people from 41 nations and 63 professions. And the world's most comprehensive single book on creativity, those 60 models. Recently, I've extended that to 120 models for an article in the Springer Encyclopedia on creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And that would be a volume 2 if I live long enough to write. But that's a heck of a lot more models than anybody else has done. And each model is more articulated than other people's versions of those models, because I've combined models from dozens of books and dozens of interviews. So my models are, each model is more complete. I mean, I've got single models of 128 well-ordered components from 7,000 individual components, single models out of those 60. I've got a one-page, 188-point diagram summary of all the main points in Stephen Wolfram's 1,000-page book, A New Kind of Science. I've got 92 TRIZ operators from everyone, all the main people who've written on TRIZ, not just Altshuler's original 30 or so. Then I've got 45 models of innovation, which have recently been moved to 60 models of innovation, and even more recently to 100 models, which I'm writing a book on now. Then I've got 420 Silicon Valley dynamics, 420 natural selection dynamics. Then I've got 64 steps to becoming a creator, shared by my 150 creators, and 64 steps to creating, shared by them. A step view of the same thing instead of a model view. Professors constantly say, how in the world did you do that? It's pretty simple. I write it up in my papers. Read the darn method section of my paper. If you don't understand the English, try it yourself. Follow my steps in the works. Then sources of entrepreneurship, 64 sources of entrepreneurship. And this is really cool stuff, because you go interview people who create venture businesses, and then you look for why them, and the terrific effort and risk and expense and hassle, and why them, and you find 64 different whys. And this is so different than all the professor books where they each pick their 2 or 3 favorite whys. I mean, when you really have a sample that's broad and you ask everybody carefully the same questions, you get a variety of answers. So those are the components: 60 models of creativity, 60 models of innovation, up to 100 now, 420 Silicon Valley dynamics from interviewing 150 Silicon Valley founders, 420 natural selection dynamics by interviewing 150 leading biologists, and 64 steps to becoming a creator, and 64 steps to creating that are shared by 150 creators in my data set. And then 64 sources of entrepreneurship. Now, you try to find, that's the 64 models of creativity alone is a 3,500-page book. It takes 4 semesters to cover the 60 models. 4 semesters to cover them. Okay? And that's just one of the 5. So you assume the same heft for each of the 5. I've got 20 semesters, 20 college courses worth of stuff in these 5 categories. So this is sort of the scope at which I operate. Vastly more comprehensive, vastly more variety, vastly more cultural and global variety, vastly more variety of professions, vastly more detail, vastly more well-orderedness of variety and detail, vastly easier to apply ordered models of the core of the model. Okay? So that's the machinery that I'm presenting on creativity.